we Christians believe that God has created the universe. So the universe must have a beginning. But somebody might say, I don't believe in the Bible. So how do we scientifically know that the universe had a beginning? Maybe the universe always existed. Majority of scientists today believe that the universe had a beginning. However, a few believe that it didn't have a beginning. Some of them talk about the universe coming into the existence and going out of the existence indefinitely. If we could show that the universe had a beginning, this would point to the necessity of a cause of it. It would point out to God. I'm going to share 3 arguments with you that the universe had a beginning. The best 2 arguments for this come from the second law of thermodynamics. It comes from science, and the impossibility of an infinite number of past moments. So it comes from philosophy. First argument. Since the universe is running out of usable energy, according to the second law of thermodynamics, the universe cannot be eternal. It must have a beginning. If the universe would be eternal, by now it would have already run out of usable energy. To illustrate this, a car has a limited amount of energy, so we need to refuel it from time to time. Otherwise, the car would stop working. Or an old clock that you have to wind would stop working if you don't wind it regularly. Some have speculated that the universe is self-winding or self-rebounding, but this position is pure speculation, without any real evidence. In fact, it is contrary to the second law of thermodynamics. For even if the universe were rebounding like a bouncing ball in reverse, it would gradually peter out. There is simply no observational evidence that the universe is self-winding. Even agnostic astronomer Robert Justo have pointed out, once hydrogen has been burned within a star and converted to heavier elements, it can never be restored to its original state. So point number 1 is, since the universe is running out of the usable energy, it had a beginning, and it must have had a cause, which is God. Second argument, since there is no infinite number of past moments, the universe cannot be eternal. It must have the beginning. If there were infinite number of past moments, we would have never arrived to today. So the universe cannot be eternal. The infinite number of past moments would mean that there is no beginning, and if there is no beginning, we would not have been able to arrive to today. But since today exists, there is only limited number of past moments, meaning time is not eternal. It had a beginning, and it must have had a cause. When we read in Genesis 1:1, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth, we are reading about the beginning of time, space, matter, and energy. There was nothing apart from God before the creation of the universe. God is the cause of everything that exists. Point number 2 is, since there are no infinite number of past moments, the universe is not eternal. It had a beginning, so God must exist. There are only 2 options that could have existed eternally. It's either God or the universe. Is the universe eternal or it has a beginning? If the universe has a beginning, then God could not have a beginning, since He is the cause of the universe, since He has created the universe. An agnostic, Bertrand Russell, in his lecture in 1927, presented us with the following dilemma. If there can be anything without a cause, it may just as well be the world as God. There is no reason why the world could not have come into being without a cause. Nor, on the other hand, is there any reason why it shouldn't have always existed. There is no reason to suppose that the world had a beginning at all. Only 2 years later, in 1929, astronomer Edwin Hubble has discovered that the universe is expanding, that the galaxies are moving away from each other. To illustrate it, imagine that you glue small ball on the balloon. As you are blowing it up, the small balls are moving further from each other. So, what does it mean? This discovery confirmed what Einstein's general theory of relativity had predicted about the universe, that it cannot be static. The gravitational attraction between the galaxies would bring them all together if they were not rushing away from each other. If the universe is expanding, then when we reverse the direction of history and look in the past, we should find evidence that it emerged from a smaller, denser state, a state that appears to have once had zero size. This is the third argument. The third argument says that a powerful event has hurled matter and energy outward in all directions to form the known universe. This would mean that the universe had to have a beginning, and only God fits the bill. If the universe is eternal, then the scientists could easily leave God out of the picture. However, this discovery has shaken the scientists. It raises the question, what force or power existed before the beginning of the universe? What was the cause of its existence? It can only be God. Our logic tells us that something cannot come from nothing. The universe cannot come from nothing. What is the cause of the universe? An agnostic, Robert Jastow, professor of astronomy and geology, says, science can find no force in nature that might account for the beginning of the universe, and it can find no evidence that the universe even existed before that first moment. He acknowledges that everything scientists know simply breaks down at the moment of creation. As a result, we need another source for the explanation of the origin of the universe, which is the Bible. Professor Jastow's conclusion is, for the scientist who has lived in his faith in the power of reason, the story ends like a bad dream. He has scaled the mountains of ignorance. He is about to conquer the highest peak as he pulls himself over the final rock. He is greeted by a band of theologians who have been sitting there for centuries. To conclude, there are three reasons why we believe that the universe had a beginning. First, the universe is running out of the usable energy. Second, there are no infinite numbers of past moments. And third, the universe is expanding. Since the universe had a beginning, God must be eternal, and He has created the universe.